Hey guys, just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an overview of the seed to seal process. It is Young Living's quality assurance. It's the seal of approval that you can stand behind, knowing that the oils that you have in your hands from Young Living are the purest and the highest quality that you can have. So the seed to seal process from beginning to end, basically just a little bit on essential oils. There are different grades of oils. I know we've probably talked about that already, but just wanted to touch on that because I've gotten questions on it recently. But basically, just to give you an overview of the different grades of oils, you have those that are on the market for like air fresheners and other things to scent things used for fragrance. Those are about the lowest quality that you can have, and they contain a very, very small amount of an essential oil, an actual essential oil, and it won't be of high quality. It'll just be there for its fragrance purposes only. And then you go up from there to the natural containing essential oils, but in an essential oil bottle, it may be only a very small portion of that total bottle of essential oil. And then you'll go up to the food grade level, so things that are put into our foods for its flavor or its fragrance, but it won't be the absolute pure unadulterated oil. It may also have other synthetics and things added to it as well. And at the very top, you'll have your therapeutic grade essential oil. And at that level, that is the highest level of therapeutic value that you can have. And it will contain only essential oil from that plant, no other additives, nothing else taken away or added to that essential oil. Young Living's standard, and why it's different from any other of those on the market that can claim that they are therapeutic grade, is the process that our oils undergo from the very beginning of the time that the seed is planted all the way until it's bottled into the bottle at production. And I wanted to read you something from the desk reference, and it's a good overview of what we're talking about, but it says literally the plant seed that is dropped into the soil to the essential oil that is sealed in the amber bottle in Young Living's state-of-the-art bottling facility. The seed to seal process is carefully supervised from beginning to end to ensure quality and purity of Young Living therapeutic grade essential oils. So you know that Young Living has had their hand in it from the very beginning. Whether that seed is planted in a farm that we own, either in Ecuador or in Brazil or here in the United States or in France, or if it's a partner farm that we co-op with, that the indigenous people of that area actually farm it for us. Frankincense is one of those. We have the indigenous peoples over there that adhere to our quality standards, and they have facilities over there to test quality in those different farms in those different regions. So whether it's that or if it's in our own farms here, we have a standard that we make them adhere to, that we adhere to, and no essential oil can be bottled, sent to the end and bottled unless it meets those standards. So from the very beginning of the bottling process, we want to talk about synthetics and things that can be added to it and why you would do that. So in the process, you know that the oil is taken from the plant, and we use a low temperature, a low pressure distillation process. It's only put through one distillation. Many companies will distill multiple times to yield a higher volume of oil, but that degrades the therapeutic value of that oil. It breaks down the molecular structure of the oil, and that therapeutic value that we're seeking is lost in that process. So we only distill one time, and a lot of companies will add synthetics to it to build back up the volume and yield a higher volume of oil in the very end. But they add those synthetics and those natural-like compounds that look identical in chemical structure to the essential oil, but they contain none of the value. Another thing, excerpt from the desk reference says, synthetic constituents may be similar in structure, but have none of the living plant energy that holds the God-given medicinal value of that oil that can be released from the plant itself. So back to the seed to seal. At the very beginning, we use seeds that are the proper genus and species and chemical makeup so that they yield the highest therapeutic value that that plant can offer, the highest phenol content and all the other therapeutic value that it can have. And then we go through cultivation. So cultivation is crucial in that process. You have to have a great seed, but you can't put a seed in bad soil. You have to have good soil as it draws all of its nutrients as it grows to yield the plant from the soil itself. So Young Living uses just the highest mineral-rich organic soil that they can, just to be sure that it's not going to leach any of the synthetics, pesticides, fertilizers, any of that from the soil. And we adhere to that in all of our farms. In organic farming, one thing that we seek in that process is to produce oils that are, they say, grown in virgin land, uncontaminated by chemical fertilizers, pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides. And so a lot of places that you could go, it's hard to find soil that hasn't had that environment around it. So in places that are close to populated areas and cities, that kind of thing, it's going to have runoff from those kind of chemicals. So we try and find, isolated areas where the soil has been untouched by man, basically, and maintain that really good soil. A lot of the soil that we have has maintained that because of the water that we use to water our plants. That is another crucial step in the cultivation process. So you can't just take regular city water and water your plants with it, because a lot of those are going to have chemicals and things from the runoff from residential areas and that kind of thing. So the best water that we can use is either deep well water that is as pure as it can get from the depth that it comes from, or from mountain runoff water, which is the greatest water that we can use because of its high mineral content. And that is spread to the plants that we water, and it is absorbed into the plants and then comes out in the oil that it yields later on. And then in harvesting, Young Living's process of harvesting has been investigated. Gary's been doing this for 20 years. So his process of investigating and researching the prime time to harvest a plant to yield the highest level of oil. Ylang ylang, for example, I watched a video on that about a year or so ago, and that was fascinating to me. But the harvesting process, there is a prime time to harvest that plant, that flower, ylang ylang flower, so that it yields the highest volume of oil and the highest value of oil. So there's a time of day where that plant protects itself and draws all the oil out of the flowers back into the actual bark of the tree, which is not where we yield the oil from. It's actually from the flowers. But then there's a prime time, early morning, where that oil goes back out to the flowers and it perfumes the flowers. And at that point, it's the prime time for you to harvest that flower at a specific time when that flower is in full bloom, before it shrivels and starts losing its life, or at the very young stage when it's not ready to hold as much oil. You want to get the exact right flower at the exact right time. And when those are harvested well, they yield the highest therapeutic value and the highest volume of oil. So all of that research that has to go into to know when that prime time is, Young Living has done that on every oil, every plant, every herb, every bark, every tree, everything that we use to get our oils from has been investigated and researched to know when those prime times are. There's even plants that it's better for them to be harvested and then set aside in a dark room for 30 days before you put it into the vat to be distilled down into oil that we actually would bottle. So all of that is fascinating to me, and the amount of time and research that would take to know that, it's incredible to me that our company goes to those lengths to know those things. So you have to know from the very beginning that the process that our company goes through to plant our plants is extensive. And then at the very end of the process, when we get that oil that's distilled down and it comes to us in the bottles, it is sent to testing. And it's not just our internal testing. We send it to third-party labs outside of us to do the same testing we do. And we have our results. We send it to them. They give results back to us, and we compare notes. And we want to know, did we get what is truly here, and did you get the same thing? And if we do, then it's sent to bottle. And if it doesn't match up, that bottle is never sent to actually be sealed and sent off. So that batch of oil will be discarded and put away. And they are using some of those discarded batches that aren't good enough for bottling for other purposes, like fertilizer, to put back on the plants to help enrich the soil that we will use for future plants. And then all the way down to the bottles that we use, the dark amber bottles, and the sealing process. All of our bottles are labeled with the batch number so that you can go back. Young Living can link each bottle of oil that is put into those bottles to the batch that it was produced from, so we can go back and see the chemical makeup of that oil to know exactly what was in that bottle of oil that you had on you at that particular time. And for that reason, all of our bottles of oils are going to be different. So you're going to have some that are maybe a different smell. Lavender is one that I find often has just a faintly different smell to it, and you want that. You don't want all of your bottles of oil to smell the same. That would give you an idea that maybe there's something that's more manufactured about it, more synthetic. Man-made can make an exact replica of the chemical structure, but it will have none of the therapeutic value. And for that reason, you don't want everything to be the same. Each plant yields a different chemical structure, so each bottle of oil will have a slightly different chemical structure, and that may yield a different smell to you, a different aroma. But that's a great thing. So that's another quality assurance that you can have, knowing that Young Living takes the great lengths that they do to provide the seed to seal process. And as Gary Young says, it's seed to seal, it's not a slogan, it's a calling. Hope you've learned something. Thanks for watching.